of the previous generation.
Yeah.
And that's not because of any other rule-based or law-based action on God's part. So it's all to do with man's choices. So, and no, I don't agree with her statements about what I believe, because I certainly don't believe those things.
I think most people are pretty clear about that now.
Yeah.
But she says that this imprinting of the whole entire soul family upon the consciousness of each soul would account for the huge disparities in knowledge, skills, ability, awareness and talents between people.
No, it wouldn't. In fact, if she was logical, every child would be born with the same abilities and the same knowledge.
If everyone has the same imprinting.
Exactly. There's no logic here.
No.
And this is what I keep saying too. A person who tries to come up with these convoluted reasonings has no logic at all. The logical statement, what she should be saying is, if there was an imprinting of the entire consciousness of the human race, of everyone who's ever been, upon the next generation, then every person on the next generation would have the knowledge of the previous generation.
And in fact, increasing.
And obviously increasing knowledge. That is obviously not true. So therefore cannot be the case.
And the way she has been explaining the disparities in knowledge, skill, ability, awareness and talents is via either previous incarnations and or previous existence in other realms, which leads to her question to you, which is, how do you explain the huge disparities between knowledge, skills, ability, awareness, talents, etc. of various individuals on this planet?
Right. Firstly, her judgment of disparity is very much a judgment. Right.
Do you want to explain that a little bit?
Well, a lot of people in the West believe, and this is a common Western belief, that people in other countries don't get it when they do, and nothing could be further from the truth. Right? So they arrogantly believe that they have some kind of knowledge that other people don't. They have some kind of awareness that other people don't. This kind of thing. Yes.
Yep.
It's an arrogance, again, lack of humility. It's not true, and nothing could be further from the truth, in fact. So straight away, and it's also out of harmony of love to believe in such a thing, besides anything else. And it's also out of harmony with humility or anything else that is connected with God to believe such a thing. So no, I can't agree with that statement.
And also, I suspect she's also talking about child prodigies, and
I understand
what
she's
you call.
Talking about that, but there are many more simple explanations for all of those things.
Yes, so give us your explanations.
Well, for example, child prodigies. Most of the time, a child is just overcloaked by a spirit because of the addictions of its parent and the sin of its parent. Overcloaked by a spirit.
Who's previously had an aptitude for something.
Had an aptitude for a particular thing. Let's call it music or art or whatever. And so the child starts expressing that spirit's skill and ability. Quite simple. Right? And this happens all the time. And it certainly does happen all the time. Children are also more connected to spirits, people who have lived in the past who are now in the spirit realm, than adults. So they are more open to having this occur to them, and they often get shut down as they progress in their life, unless the so-called prodigy is accepted by the parents, and then the parents don't shut it down. So let's say the child is speaking to other children, then that's shut down because
it's speaking to a child spirit.
Spirits. So the child is speaking to child spirits who the parent cannot see. The parent feels really challenged by that. So the parent shuts that down, projects to the child, oh, you're just being a bit crazy now. It's just a make-believe friend, isn't it? And rah. So they shut all that down, right? But when the child has a nice gift of playing the violin, they just pick up a violin and starts playing it. They go, isn't that wonderful? That's amazing. And they what do? They develop that. They explore that. They even exploit it. Right?
Through their own addictions.
And of course the child feels approved of, and so naturally the child's allowed to have that connection. Right? So of course the child's going to have a disparity compared to other children because of the parent's emotional condition and what the parent's addictions dictate.
Because also there's another aspect to it, isn't it, that doesn't involve spirits, which is just depending on a parent's emotional openness to learning, their fears about learning, that whatever it is.
Not only that, their emotional openness to gender, sexuality, to everything. Their emotional openness
self-esteem,
to everything.
Whatever it is. All of
blocks
that
or enables the child to learn.
So some children seem to learn maths so easily while others struggle.
Yep.
Some seem to struggle with learning globally while others do well in a lot of things.
And you can see why. The more fear the child's in, the more difficulty it's going to have understanding things.
The worse it feels about itself, the comprehension, even intellectually, will be impaired.
And this is why countries that have lower education have higher learning difficulties have it. Because the countries that have more education are generally oppressors who cause fear-based interactions to occur to these other countries. Yeah. The general countries are in fear of their lives in many cases, and as a result of the fear, it suppresses their ability to learn. Yeah. So it's quite simple. Yeah. If we became loving, no one would have a suppressed ability to learn. Everyone would be able to be capable of learning as rapidly as they possibly can.
And exactly, and having lived in a refugee population, I mean, life is chaotic, the future doesn't look bright. You go to school.
There's so much negativity. Everyone's carrying around a gun when they're only in their teens.
Learning how to assemble and disassemble them before they hit their teens.
Before they're 5.
Yes. So there's all of those emotional, the emotional environment has such an impact upon the learning and the skills and the aptitude.
And I put to Catherine, who made those guns? Who created that environment? Isn't it the countries who do not want to take refugees? Isn't it and America is one of the worst offenders there. And isn't it the countries who make armaments? And America is one of the worst offenders there. That cause this level of fear to be present in these particular places, that also causes the suppression of learning. So this is where I feel, here's a person coming up with the reincarnation of all things as an explanation for something where she doesn't want to come to terms with the fact that she personally participates in the lack of learning of these children. This is where we don't take personal responsibility for our actions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we've answered that question.
We have answered it very well.
Yeah.
Next question.
Even if we do say so ourselves.
Sorry. I think in terms of our point, it was made.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's been plenty, by the way, there's been plenty of human and social and scientific studies that prove that the more pressure you put on a child when it's young, and the more fear the child is in when it's young, the more difficulty it has learning and the more difficulty it has for the rest of its life.
Absolutely.
And if you put that pressure up before the child is 7 years of age, then it's devastating to their life.
Yes. To their development, their brain development, to their motor development, to their sensory development.
And then if you do the additional thing of taking away their food, which Western countries do from other countries, you take away their food, their resources, and most of their living, their method of living, then of course these children are going to struggle. Of course. And if they're starving to death, of course their brain is not going to function properly. No. And if they don't have enough clean water to drink, of course they're going to have problems. Yeah. So don't blame reincarnation or divine truth teachings for it. It again is caused by humanity's unloving condition. Yeah. Humanity's desire to continue acting out of harmony with love and not recognizing where they are out of harmony with love. Yeah.
And even within a Western society, you see these anomalies between attitudes in children. Partly there's personality issues going on where children are more drawn to something because of something within themselves.
But even a lot of that is based on addictions of their parents.
Exactly. And the openness or closedness within parents towards a child pursuing something or... Even
so, if mum's scared of a mathematician, do you think her son's going to be drawn to it? You know, if he wants mum's approval, probably not. Yeah. He's going to freak her out every time he's drawn to it. Yeah. So if he desperately wants his mother's approval, he's either going to want to become a mathematician? Of course not.
He'll suppress that.
He'll suppress that
interest
desire.
Within himself.
He'll suppress music. He'll suppress art. If Dad doesn't want him to do it, he'll become a footy player when he really wants to be a basketball player. Yeah. You know, there's all sorts of things he will do in order to conform to the parents' demands on the child, to what the parent believes is right. And remember, we've already raised with Catherine, she herself, through her own admission in this email, is demonstrating that she would push her children into a
certain
directions.
Yeah,
and
she thought was best.
And this injury of parents is a major problem for learning for the children.
Yes. And later on in this email, she makes the point, which is very true, that without love, human beings do not thrive. They do not.
I agree, but the big problem here is that Catherine herself has no understanding of love. And so she thinks what she believes love to be is love. And that is the problem.
Yeah.
That is the problem. It's the things we do that we believe are right that are actually, from God's perspective, wrong, that we have the biggest problems with.
Absolutely.